welcome to May. And yes, it took everything in my millennial body to keep me from doing the NSYNC Justin Timberlake, it's gonna be me thing, okay? It did. We needed to acknowledge it. I'm stoked to sit down today because I have been in conversations doing Q2 planning with clients and looking ahead to being able to re release, to repurpose, to really build some space for them in as we hit late Q2. Or we're already looking ahead to that Q3 call and saying, hey, how do we make early Q3 a little easier so that I can have some space, so that I can have some time off? Whatever that may be for them. And it really inspired me to sit down and create something that would give more podcasters the ability to be doing that, to be sitting down thoughtfully, looking ahead and saying, hey, what gaps might I need to fill? What things can we be making more of so that I can have this space away while still building something that can do what I need it to do in the back half of the year? And that conversation is what we're having today. Welcome to the More Profitable Podcast with Stacey Harris. I'm Stacey, and this is the spot to learn more about the strategies, tactics, and tools you need to build your more profitable podcast. My team and I work every day with podcasters like you to shift shows from frustrating time sucks to productive members of your sales team, because your show should be built to generate and convert leads. So let's get into it. As you may know, I sit down with our production clients 4 times a year, and I meet with all of our production clients in 1 month. So the last month of the quarter, I sit down with each of our clients and we plan the quarter ahead. And the last week of that month, when all of my production consultations are done, I debrief. Mostly because between you and me, it's a great way to get content. Uh, Anything I have said in every single strategy call needs to come to the podcast. Needs to be in my own shows planned for the next quarter. And so, number one, that's what I'm doing it for. But number two, it helps me fill gaps. It helps me know where I need to evolve our services, where I need to meet a need that might be happening. Because if two of our clients ask for it, four need it. It's just the way it is when you're working with right fit clients. I'm sure you notice this in your own business as well. And so it's one of the reasons I sit down and I debrief and I look for those gaps. As we wrapped Q2 strategy calls and I sat down and I was debriefing the calls, something became alarmingly obvious to me. And it was that the the main theme, the main message, the main conversation I was having again and again was about being able to step back. In some cases, it was about, identifying a series that we run regularly and releasing it again. For some, it was, maybe planning a little further out than we normally do. So for some of our Q2 strategy calls, we actually did Q2 in early, if not all of Q3, in an effort to make sure that they were really ahead so that they could batch ahead because they want to be able to take some time off. We've got 2 or 3 clients who take sabbaticals in July and August. And so I wanted to bring this possibility to more people. And so as I was sitting down and I was looking at what was happening for me in Q2 and through Q3, I decided to do something that I don't do a ton, which is change my plan. So I had planned to launch the Profitable Podcaster Mastermind just one time this year and do it in the fall. But in having these conversations, I realized that that's a huge part of what we create in the Profitable Podcaster Mastermind is this ability for podcasters to have the line of sight and clarity to batch ahead if they want to buy time down the road, but also building something that they can re-release, building assets that can continue working for them. In the Profitable Podcaster Mastermind, one of the things we do is we build a repeatable series, like the podcasting housekeeping series I run in August every year. Like we build that asset in the program. And I thought, you know what? I don't want to wait until the fall to do this. I don't want to run this September, October, November like I had planned. I want to run this summer because if I can get podcasters and business owners to use this summer to sit down and build this and do this work this summer, they can take next summer off from their show. And more importantly than that, they can go into the end of this year knowing that they have strong, real, tangible assets that are going to help them convert when they do Black Friday sales, when they run their promos for their 12-month programs. I work with a ton of business coaches who are running really incredible, high touch, high value 12-month masterminds that they enroll in October, in November for the following year. And it can feel kind of impossible to be taking any kind of time off ahead of that, to be doing anything with your show that is not absolutely setting up those sales as you move through the middle and end of the year, because that's where they're making their money. And as questions around the economy continue to be never ending, as sales cycles grow a little longer because of that uncertainty, it might take them a little longer to be warmed, to be nurtured, to understand that this person is the right fit. And so I wanted to spend this summer helping business owners set foundations so that they know when they go to make those pitches, when they go to make those calls to action, when they extend those invitations, they're going to work, all while building something that they could use again next summer, to take a month off here from recording and take sabbatical, enjoy some time, get ahead on their Q4 content so that they can take time off at the holidays. That's how I spend the summer in my little content land. That's one of the reasons we built my repeatable series in August, is because I'm already starting end of year content, because I try to have through the end of February done before I get into November. And so a lot of times I'm already working ahead. I need that space. And so I thought, how can we create this for more folks? How can we invite more business owners to be building these foundations for themselves? And it really came down to revamping and shifting this program that I love, the Profitable Podcaster Mastermind, into something that's doable over the summer. And with that, the Profitable Podcast Summer Camp was born. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. This is a reorganizing of the Profitable Podcaster Mastermind. The Profitable Podcaster Mastermind, if you remember, if you've heard me talk about it before, was a 3-month program. We have consolidated that to an 8-week program. So we're going to spend 8 weeks together weekly, not only learning, but doing the work. So we'll alternate between workshops and co-working calls where you're able to come in and ask questions, but we're also going to be like literally doing some of the strategy work together. So we will kick off by doing a podcast audit and sales alignment, looking at what's ahead for your business, where we're at right now, where we've been. And then that next week, we'll come in and we will do some group coaching and some co-working together, basically doing the audit we learned about in the week before. Week 3, we're going to learn about building your repeatable sales series. Spoiler alert, we're actually going to talk about that here on the podcast as well next week, so make sure you listen into that. Week 4, group coaching and co-working. So we'll be then going through and doing the things we learned in that workshop. Week 5, we're going to map our quarterly sales content plan. This is a big one. This is a really big one. This is where we learn to do what we do. In week 6, we're going to again have a group coaching and co-working call. And then in week 7, it's all about optimization and systemization. So podcast workflows, basically making the 3 workshops we've done before that repeatable, so that this becomes just a system in your business and it becomes a lot easier to keep that line of sight that we're building out for you in this workshop. And then, of course, we'll wrap it up in week 8 with a final co-working and kind of next steps group coaching call, meaning you'll be able to ask questions, you'll be able to get clarity. We'll talk through everything we've done in the 8 weeks before that. And what I love about doing this in this summer camp style, because we're going to kick off June 12th, that's going to be our first call. So we'll run June 12th through the first week of August. I can't remember what the date is, but it's that first Thursday in August. That will be our last call. So we're going to spend mid-June through July and into that first week of August. And we're going to build your plans. You're going to know what you're doing with your show through the end of the year. Because I want you to have an understanding of how you're selling whatever programs you're selling at the end of this year. I want you to have line of sight over how early you've got to start talking about them. You've got to start planting seeds. I want you to have a repeatable series to make your next launch so much easier. Again, please make sure you are back here next week to listen to that episode. I actually brought a client on who went through the Profitable Podcaster Mastermind, is now a production client, and used this repeatable series tool in her last launch. We talk about in that episode the impact that had. You're gonna want to hear it. So make sure you're back here next week for that. And frankly, make sure you join us for summer camp because we're gonna build that for you. But I'm so stoked for this because it's going to equip us to have what we need to make the money we want to make as we wrap up this year. It's going to set us up to hit the ground running in January, not just because you will have had this incredible consistency and you will have been building these assets with intention through the end of this year, but because you'll know how to do it again next year. You'll know how to do it again for Q1 and again for Q2 of next year, and so on and so forth, because we're literally building this system into your podcast, into your business. And that for me is the biggest part is I am not, part of the reason this is not a self-study course, this is not a DIY program, this is not a membership, this is still you working with me in a small cohort. It's going to be you and me and a small group of podcasters because I want us to be doing this work in the program. This is not about me sending you 12 templates and saying best of luck because it is harder now. Things are more complicated. Things are more difficult. Sales cycles are longer. There are real things we've got to be looking at. And I wanted to build a way that we could do that we could work through that together. And frankly, where stuff actually gets done. And so when I looked at putting this together, I knew I didn't want to run the mastermind again because the mastermind runs over 3 months. There's more space between calls. It's just easier to get distracted. It's easier to prioritize something else. And so I wanted to build in this space for us to be doing this literally on calls. This is not about me sort of teaching you for 20 minutes and then you going off and doing work on your own for 6 to 8 hours. This container is built to do the work in it because I want you to be supported as you make these changes in your system and in your business because it's not going to get easier to do it later in the year. It's not going to get more simple as you get busier and busier. And I understand that we want to take time in the summer. I understand that sometimes our kids are more present during the summer and that can make things more difficult, or that can, be a not just pull on our attention because of their needs, but like, I don't know about you, but like I'm on my last couple summers of my kid being a kid. And so we're having a good time. We've got I'm going to Warp Tour, man. Like I've got things to do this summer. And so I wanted to build something that we could be in and get stuff done so that the end of summer does not sneak up on us and we don't end up in a situation where it's, hey, I've got to fill this program because this is a huge chunk of my annual revenue and I'm running behind. And this is a real example from a client who started working with us a few years ago where their high-end mastermind is the bulk of their revenue. And it, at the time, as this offer existed then, got sold at a very specific time of the year. And this client also took time off in the summer. And they started working with us and we started talking about what was going on. And they're like, yeah, we've got to get this done. We've got to get this done. And in that first year, we built a ton of the things, frankly, that we're building in summer camp. So that the following year, we didn't have to do that. And the following year, they took their time off in the summer and they came back and the pre-launch content was ready to go. We had a repeatable series that we ran as pre-launch content that was for, that drove traffic to an opt-in, that started setting them up for a sales sequence they could go through on the email list. We then followed that up with podcast content that supported that sales effort. But much of that was new because it would be case study interviews with those mastermind participants from the year before. And it was such a shift for them to not only have the line of sight that was coming up and prep like a lot of those things, like case studies, ahead of time before they went on their break, but also it worked more effectively because guess what? Not having that last minute frantic energy, borderline panic kind of vibe meant that they showed up differently on social media, meant that they showed up in their Instagram stories and they posted stuff on TikTok and they did the things. They showed up and did LinkedIn Lives. They were showing up and being on other people's podcasts. They were able to engage in the other kinds of conversations. They were, now we're a few years into this and they've had the capacity to revamp email sequences and make all sorts of changes that before they weren't making because A, they were reinventing the wheel every launch, and B, it snuck up on them every time. And so it would be this like chill, 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 chill panic. And that's what the launch energy was through the end of the year. And then they'd crash at holiday break and they'd get back and they'd kick off delivery. And that I'm gonna guess that you can already tell is not super Funsville. It's not a great way to run. And so we made a ton of changes in the way we did things by just building a couple of different assets. By doing, again, a lot of the things we're going to do in summer camp this year. So if you are a coach or a consultant and you want to make sure that your podcast is set up to help you sell the things you need to sell in Q4, that it is set up to allow you to take some space and have some time as the year wraps up, moving into early next year. Maybe you want to have a slow start into January. I love mine. That's why I batch the way I do. If you want to be able to take a sabbatical next year and still have podcast content go out, still have your email list growing, still be delivering on the commitment you made to your audience and nurturing those fall leads, you're going to want to join me for the Profitable Podcast Summer Camp because this is the program where we're going to be building the tools that give you those things. If you want your show to support your sales and not just fill your project management software, not just fill your to-do list, not just swim around in the back of your brain as something else you've got to do, we need to connect. If you're ready to stop winging it, and just sort of being like, hey, what does my audience need to hear this week? Okay, I'll record that and release it. If you're ready to step back from that panic, from that frantic energy, enrollment is open right now. Even better, if you join us right now, you are going to get an early bird bonus, which is a one-on-one call with me. This is a back pocket call. You'll be able to use it at any point during the program. All I ask is that it's used by August 15th. That's all I ask. We're going to wrap up. Our last day is actually August 7th. And that way you've got a whole additional week to use that call, but you will be able to use that call at any point. When you join, you'll get a link to the calendar. You'll be able to book it whenever. Those will only remain available through May 17th. Once May 17th arrives, I will no longer be offering this one-on-one call. So if you want to have the ability to do this 8 weeks with me and also have a one-on-one call, you're going to want to join before May 17th. You can learn more. You can reserve your spot at camp over at uncommonlymore.com/summercamp. This is going to be the summer that we build your profitable podcast, that we build your system that allows you to be using your podcast as a real asset, as a meaningful tool for sales in your business. We get started June 12th. So you're going to want to sign up now, get that one-on-one spot, and join me for a very fun, profitable podcast summer camp. I will see you at camp. Thanks so much for listening to the show. Remember that content consumption does not make changes. So commit to doing something from today's episode. Maybe it's taking action on what we talked about. Maybe it's reaching out to me and learning more about podcast strategy intensives or what podcast production looks like with our team. All of that is over at uncommonlymore.com. And if you haven't yet signed up for the podcast newsroom, I want to remind you that is a great next step. If you're not really sure what comes next, hang out over there. Get those exclusive private episodes. That's over at podcastnewsroom.com. And the last favor I will ask, because social proof is endlessly important for sure, is to leave a rating or review for the show. If you go to ratethispodcast.com/more, that's the easiest way to do it. But I would love to hear what you thought of the show, what you think of the show, and if the show has been helpful for you. I can't wait to chat with you. So this is just the start of the conversation. Reach out so we can keep it going. Talk soon.